Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about 5 cars that won't make it to 100,000 miles. Now, of course, any car can make it to 100,000 miles if you want to spend a fortune on it, putting another engine or transmission or spending a fortune repairing it. I'm talking about cars that won't make it to 100,000 miles if you just change the oil and filter and take care of them. They just won't make it because they're so poorly made. Now, the first vehicle I'm going to tell you about is the Range Rover. No surprise to anyone who knows vehicles. They are notorious for having all kinds of electrical problems. Now, the original Rovers, they were copies of American Jeeps from World War II. The English saw them and liked them, so they made their own one with little bitty 4-cylinder engines. And those things, they could run a really long time. But then they started to think, let's make bigger ones, luxurious ones, and sell them for a whole bunch of money. And while the little ones, some of those original ones are still running all over the world, Africa, you name it. But the bigger ones, they all proved to be pretty much money pits. And then that Indian company Tata that makes the really cheap car, they bought them out, so now they own them. And really, if anything, the quality's gotten even worse. Now, I know another mechanic, and he loves them because that's all he works on. And he says, Scotty, these things are great. It's like they're printing out money for me. They break so much, I make a fortune fixing them. And the modern Range Rovers, they have all this electronic stuff, and it's fine if it works, like in a Lexus. But theirs doesn't. I have a customer with one, and he says, every day is a new adventure in what electronic part will fail next. I had a customer who had one. In the first year of ownership, the dealership actually had the car for 4 months attempting to fix it. And it never really was fixed. One time he took it in for a problem. When he got it back, that problem was gone. But there were 4 new electronic problems that suddenly popped up. And when you take into consideration they've had head gasket failures over the years, it's just not a vehicle that you can buy and think you'll get 100,000 trouble-free miles of driving it. Just not the case. And of course, a smart person would look at the resale value of the Range Rovers and they'll see how incredibly low they are. So they think, wow, I can get one cheap. Well, there's a reason you get one cheap, because it may be cheap to buy, but it's not going to be cheap to fix, and it's going to break a lot. Now, the next car that probably won't make it trouble-free to 100,000 miles is the Chevy Cruze. Now, lately, GM has been known for poor quality, but the Cruze, it takes the prize. It's one of the worst cars they ever made. I have a customer with one, 70,000 miles. It's on its 3rd automatic transmission. It's just insane. They keep replacing them, they keep breaking them, because they're just so poorly made. And I said, well, what do you think now? He said, I should have spent the extra $3,000-4,000 instead of having this pile of junk that I'm just going to get rid of the next time the transmission goes out, because it won't be under warranty then. Granted, the Cruze is a lower priced car, but it's got even lower quality in it. My advice, stay far away from them. But if you have to get one, say you found one that looks okay and it's real cheap, only buy one if it has a standard transmission. The rest of the cars are poor quality, but nowhere near as bad as the automatic transmissions. Now, the next car that probably won't make it trouble-free to 100,000 miles is the Mini. And yes, they're cute. That's how they sell the things. But they're not made cute. I see it all the time. The engines have a tendency of blowing head gaskets. And don't even get me talking about the wiring on those cars. I had one come over here, the headlights weren't working, so I pulled out the headlights, and all the tiny little wires that fed it were the thinnest things I've ever seen, and they were all melted together. Now, with modern manufacturing processes, you'd think they'd be able to make wiring that goes to the headlights that could last forever. Well, this particular vehicle, it was only 3.5 years old. The wiring was already all melting together. That's just uncalled for. That shows quality control that's down the toilet. And the ones that have CVTs, they're notorious for transmission failure. That's what happens when you start putting higher technology in a German/English car, sell them without really doing any kind of serious testing of the things. Now, I remember years ago, Honda had carbureted cars in the United States, but at the same time, they were selling fuel-injected Hondas in England. They used England as a test ground. And once they got all the glitches out of their fuel injection systems, then they started selling fuel-injected cars in the United States. And guess what? Those Honda fuel injection systems were pretty bulletproof. They didn't have any problems at all, really. Maybe Mini should have learned from that. Maybe they should have just tested all this stuff in England first before they started shipping them to the United States and have them fall apart. And when they do fall apart, whew, with all those BMW parts on them, they are expensive. I did one the other day, had to put a brake caliper on it. I couldn't believe how much money the parts cost. I tried various places, nobody had them. And I noticed when I did have to buy the caliper at the dealer for an ungodly sum, it said BMW on it because it was a BMW part. They got a lot of BMW parts on them. 3 years old, wasn't that old. Stuff shouldn't fail that early. So if you want to maximize your car value, don't buy a Mini. Now, the next car that generally won't make it to 100,000 miles is the Fiat 500. A while back, Fiat left the United States, and they left for 3 entire decades and didn't sell cars in the United States. But now, with Fiat buying Chrysler, Fiats are back in the United States. Perhaps they should have stayed back in Italy and not come here. I had a customer, 40,000 miles. The engine blew up. Oil and filter was changed regularly. It was just a poorly made little car. Now, theoretically, it's an upgrade from the original Fiat 500, which was called Fiat 500, because it had a 500cc engine in it. The new Fiat 500 comes with a stock 1400cc engine, a lot more than the 500cc. But really, the quality control, they haven't learned much in the last 30, 40 years of Fiat. Now, one year, when they first came out to the United States, these new Fiat 500s, they sold like 40-something thousand of the things, which was a decent start. But last year, they sold less than 5,000. So, they're going down the tubes. And the rumor mill has it that they might just pull Fiat out of the US market. And sure, from what people tell me in Europe, the Fiat 500s are mainly standard transmissions, a lot of them are diesels. Here in the United States, people mainly get automatics. And in 2016, Fiat had to recall a lot of their automatic transmissions for shifting into neutral all by themselves. They recalled over 300,000 of them. Now, of course, they weren't all 500s because they didn't sell that many of them here. But you take a little car like that that's underpowered, then put an automatic transmission on top of it, makes it even less powerful, and they just don't fit in with the American market. Now, granted, the Fiat 500 wasn't as dismal as a failure as, say, the Smart car, but the Smart cars, they sold such a small amount of cars, I don't even include them in this video because, as far as I'm concerned, they really don't exist as a model in the United States. Now, the last car that probably won't make it trouble-free to 100,000 miles is a late model Nissan Altima, especially with one that has the CVT transmission. Now, I do say modern because you go back a decade or so or more, the Nissan Altimas were actually very good cars. I had customers buy them, totally happy with them. The acceleration, the gas mileage, the handling. Whoo! Since Renault took over, their quality has gone. But not only are their automatic transmissions garbage, they blow head gaskets all the time too. I see head gaskets blowing on Altimas quite frequently. It's just something that should never happen with modern metals. They know how to make them. Obviously, Nissan isn't putting that into practice anymore. And it's a shame, really, because I've had customers that owned Altimas decades ago. Then when they bought a newer one and it fell apart, they were so disappointed because they said, oh, we remembered our old Altimas and they lasted so long, but this one was just a pile of junk. So don't make the same mistake yourself. Stay away from late model Nissan Altimas. So now you know 5 cars that aren't going to make it trouble-free to 100,000 miles, and why you should stay far away from them if you value your money. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.